This is my best kind of show notes because we didn't touch one of them, not even one of them. I'm not sure which one is Paul Rudd and which one is Lane Green.
Final card here is the ultimate outcome.
Today is Take Your Dog to Work Day.
Oh, like Scooby-Doo.
Yeah. Without further ado, his debut.
Sweet Caroline.
Everybody say hello to Sammy. Is it not good?
I'm just pausing so that you just are at the front of your screen.
I'm so enormously flattered.
Branding is not a bad blind date.
I'm gonna have to take a picture of this.
No, this is agape. This is love.
I really enjoyed this. You did do your homework. You asked great questions.
I'm flattered. Thank you. You just made my day.
Look at you! You are insane.
How did I do that?
You're
how
insane.
Did I do that?
You're insane.
12 noon Friday. Happy Friday. Happy Friday. Hope you guys are well. Joseph Jaffe here. I'm not your host. I'm co-modding. I'm modding all of my guests. This is a show and on a Friday where we all just become co-hosts. So starting with Mr. Bob Knorpp and then going on to Tamsen Webster, Melanie Deziel, and finally Saul Colt. You see, you're already on the show. Let's begin with welcome to the show, guys.
Hi.
Hey. Hey.
I should not have 2 cups of coffee so close to noon. Or maybe I should. I don't know.
So if you suddenly go off screen, then we'll know, or just
explode. Here's what I'd like to do to start, because yesterday was a very, very important day. Yesterday was Tamsen's birthday. And so without further ado, I'm going to sing happy birthday. Please join in if you'd like. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, goddess of the red. Happy birthday to you. We still haven't
oh, thank you all.
Sell lots of books. Sell lots of books.
I'll do my best. Thanks. Thank you.
Sell lots of books. So yesterday was your birthday. We will do birthdays in a moment. I decided to do something different. You know, I normally do a bit of an icebreaker, but today's icebreaker, I think, is going to be more like the ice is thin and we're going to attempt to break the ice with a mallet or one of those, jackhammers as well. So I ended up in a room on Clubhouse last night discussing the new Pepsi Zero Sugar campaign, contextually targeting men who compromise. They're basically people who are, so clearly what happened here from a strategic standpoint was a planner or the account planners realized that men in their 30s and 40s either were drinking this or were likely to drink this. Note the color of the can, right? Very dark, masculine, strong, color of, black. And here are the quotes. They're basically people who are in a constant life transition. They just got married, they bought a house, they had kids, got a new job. Basically, they're adulting super hard. When you talk to them, they're constantly compromising for other people. They're compromising for their boss, for their wife, for their kids, for their diet. We've been able to identify contextual moments of compromise that this consumer has in their life. You've compromised enough. Pepsi, zero sugar. So my question for my amazing panel is, are you guys buying or selling? Are you compromising or not? Mr. Bob Knorpp.
I think this is like a literal case of the brief is showing. I mean, we're seeing the brief and we're not commenting on the ad. And I mean, that's not a fair understanding of whether the ad is effective or not. I mean, the ad is okay. It's not really exciting. There's nothing about it that makes me go, wow, I got to put this on the fair, foul, foul at the end of my show. But it's just like, it's the brief that enrages, because when you start talking about compromise, I mean, it's like women compromise more than men. I mean, I think that's pretty much the point Tamsen was saying before the show. And, men don't like to think of themselves as compromising, but I don't think that this ad necessarily says that. It says there is zero compromise when you drink this drink. So, I mean, that's effective for men or women.
So you buying or selling or moving on to the next campaign?
I don't drink sugar water. Are you kidding? I drink regular water. I mean, none of this stuff for me. So, I mean, it really doesn't matter. It doesn't affect me whether I compromise or not.
All right, Bob Knorpp says your briefs are showing, and we know during these times of COVID, people don't wear pants anymore. So, Tamsen, you buying or selling? Let me think. Are you buying or selling?
So I'm with Bob on the fact that, you know, taken by itself, absent what their thinking was behind it, I think there's a lot of ways to say, hey, you know, the message that you could interpret from the ad is you want the flavor of Pepsi, but not the sugar. Hey, now you don't have to compromise. The brief is very ragey, though. It makes me like, super ragey. But at the same time, as I was saying before the show, I'm having this very meta moment about it, because my argument, of course, is just like, well, you're not the only one who has to compromise. I have to compromise too. And then I was like, well, is this just like an all compromises matter situation? Yeah. So I think Bob's got the right approach. Let's just look at the ad. The ad's all right.
Oh my goodness. I mean, these one-liners from your briefs are showing to all compromises matter. Melanie Deziel, welcome back to the show. Are you buying or selling?
I think I'm in agreement with Tamsen and Bob here. Yeah, I think that if we saw the cringy briefs that were behind all of the other ads that we see in the world, we'd have a similar kind of reaction. I mean, I love seeing the way that, you know, moms are often reduced to, like, you know, how much they love healthy snacks for their children, as if that's their main operating mode in life and they have no other thoughts or passions. Or the way millennials are reduced to, like, they can't focus on everything and anything at all. They just, all they want to do is TikTok. Like, it's all these avatars in these briefs are stereotypes and sweeping generalizations and a whole lot of assumptions that back up somebody's idea from a conference table. So yeah, I think, you know, sometimes it's better not to see how the sausage gets made.
All right. Well, speaking of sausage, that might be one of the worst.
There's so many ways to take that, Joe. So many ways to take that.
We talk about how the sausage is made. Saul Colt, I have a feeling you're selling and maybe even liquidating.
Yeah, no, I think a more powerful on the nose message would have been for Pepsi Zero for men who hate their lives. You know, when you go through all those things, that was the most passive aggressive like thing I've ever read in my life, and you know they're sort of belaboring the point. You know, and really if you're gonna say, you know, stop compromising, then drink sugar, man. Like, you know, it's like, you know, if compromise is your thing, then just go all in and you know, based on that list, these guys should be killing themselves, or at least like leaving their families or something. It's such a strange, convoluted message.
Well, we'd love to hear what you guys think, and afterwards we're going to be doing the after show in a Clubhouse. So today's after show we're club casting again, and you can actually get that link on my linktree/Jaffe Juice. If you have thoughts on that, you would love to hear from you, and so we'll see you at about 1 p.m. But now my co-host and I were going to quickly run through the preamble. I have a small announcement, which is the Jaffe launched yesterday, the Jaffe coin, and I'm somehow tiptoeing or stumbling into crypto. And I'm actually really, really excited about this idea. So you can actually buy Jaffe coins. You can send Jaffe coins. You can do things with Jaffe coins. But the one thing that I'm going to do is a bit of an interesting experiment over the course of the next week or two, as I figure out what pricing to put into the Jaffe economy is, that anybody that sends me any Jaffe coin, I don't care if it's the equivalent of a penny, as a tip to say thank you to me, to my guests, etc., you'll get a shout out on the show. So we're going to start to experiment, and what I believe is the bigger experiment here is this idea of a monetization approach, a micro monetization approach for the creator economy in the streaming economy. So I think it's going to be very, very interesting. Watch this space. Well, today, guys, and by the way, co-host, you can jump in at any time, because today is for Pete's Sake Day. So who is Pete? Who is he, and why do we or not do things for his sake? Does anybody know the origins of For Pete's Sake Day?
No, but I'm very conscious whenever I say that, because one of my son's name is Peter. So whenever I'm like, oh, for Pete's sake, and he's like, what, Mom? And I'm like, oh, sorry, babe, it's not you.
Here's a little bit of information. It's what's known actually as a minced oath. a euphemistic expression or a substitute word that is formed by mispronouncing, misspelling, or replacing an offensive term or phrase. And in this particular case, the word that Pete might be replacing is more of a religious word, like, for example, for God's sake as well. So that's the origin of for Pete's sake. Now you know. And as I always say, that piece of useless information, if ever it's your $1 million question on who wants to be a millionaire, you're welcome. Just send the tip in Jaffe to me.
But I still want to know why Pete, though. Like, is it just like because it's plosive and it's fun to say, like Pete?
I think it's no. I think his point is it's like St. Pete. It's like St. Pete's Day. You know, it's just like
we can invoke St. Pete, and that's like safer than invoking God. Is that how it works? I'm not good at the religion.
Tomorrow,
I'm guessing. I know.
Tomorrow is Great Caesar's Ghost Day. I don't know if you guys know that.
Well,
what I want to know is
there's no show tomorrow. So,
what I want to know is when there's going to be a Saul Colt coin. I mean, it's just like the fact that Joe Jaffe got a Bitcoin, a cryptocurrency out there before Saul Colt got a cryptocurrency out there is like shattering my world, because the whole self-promotion thing is all Saul. This is not you, Joe.
I just take cash. The coin thing is too volatile.
That's a good one. By the way, each one of you will be receiving a coin today as a thank you for coming on the show. So you're part of the initial round where I get to say thank you to my guests and send them a Jaffe. So, you know, a Jaffe for your thoughts, at least one Jaffe for your thoughts. All right, well, next week, our guests look as follows. Alison Escalante, she's done an amazing TED Talk on depression, and she actually says depression is actually trying to help us, and she has some unbelievable insights on it, and I just cannot wait for her to come in. You guys know some of these people, Minter Dial, Tom Martin, and Tracy Lovett as well. So those are our guests next week on the show. I'm doing a whole bunch of rooms in the club, in the clubhouse. One of the things tomorrow, actually, we're doing, you know, for the launch of the Jaffe coin, we're going to be, I think Mitch is there and Scott is there. We're all going to be talking about our coin. And then my regular panels really are my brands in Clubhouse and my pivoting rooms. Any of you have any rooms, anything that you want to promote in terms of Clubhouse this coming week?
I don't have anything scheduled, but I've been hopping in and doing content marketing focused rooms quite a few times. I did one earlier this morning. I did one last week. So if you're on there and you're into content marketing, then find me.
Your rooms are so well attended, so valuable, the stuff that you've been sharing, Melanie. I've been a part of them as well, and I've enjoyed it. No doubt, it's been incredible, actually. All right, well, moving on, just to do some birthdays. One in particular, well, I've got a few family members: Rick Perkins, Steve Perkins, Cyril Prisman is 90 today. But I have to say, Brian Simpson. Remember Brian Simpson? Not remember him. I mean, did we ever forget him? But Faith James, one of our previous guests on the show, always get a shout out. Anyone you see in particular, guys, that you want to say happy birthday to?
Happy birthday to all the listeners, right? I mean, they're all important. I'm glad they're all here.
There you go. And not too many people on LinkedIn as well. So just happy birthday to Ash, to Paul, Sunita as well. Have a great day, guys. But now it is time to get into the show. First up is Mr. Bob Knorpp. I'm going to put you into the hot seat. Your 5 minutes, my friend, starts now.
I want to talk about you, Joe, and I know that's going to like warm your cockles, but one of the things that I've discovered through this many years of doing a podcast, I mean,
I can mute you, by the way. I'm just letting
I know. I got this. So, I mean, when I started my podcast, one of the first people I asked within the first couple months was you to come on my show. I mean, I knew that you had a big audience. I knew that you were involved with podcasting before I was, and I was really gratified to have you come on my program and have you consistently come on my program. But one of the things that you did that is really resonated with me, and something that I share with people all the time, is the fact that your graciousness of opening up your audience to me and sharing the show with your audience and sharing it through your feed and giving me access to your audience from the beginning has been kind of a watchword for me as far as how to approach new talent coming up and how to nurture it and how to keep it alive and well. I mean, I think that we're not paying attention to that enough in online marketing these days. I mean, we're not giving our credit where credit's due. We're not going out and saying, you know, this is a real talent. I'm going to open up my audience. I'm going to be gracious to them. I'm going to bring them, you know, consistently support them, consistently promote them. And I think that that's really been a great opportunity for me and for you and for all of us to grow and become better marketers overall. So, I mean, the reason this is so on my mind right now is because I'm in the process of starting a new program. And, you know, it's just like I want to lift up people with it. I mean, I want to really give them the opportunity to see that, you know, we don't do this alone, that when we're faced with hardships, we've got support from other people. And it's particularly focused around the fact that, you know, it's just like I've been doubly blessed with two handicaps. I mean, both, you know, the physical handicap of losing half my hand, but also the Parkinson's, which has just started up. And it's just like between those two things, you know, I want to share back with the community and give people the opportunity to, you know, share a little bit about what their struggles are and see that it's not so bad. I mean, I'm calling the show Parkinson's and other minor annoyances. I mean, because, you know, I think what it is we get so focused up on our hardships and we don't look at the opportunities that are around us that are presented every time we put ourselves out there. So anyway, that's what I wanted to talk about with you. And, you know, it's just like, and give this opportunity just to say thank you for something that you did long ago. And, you know, because I can't leave it without giving you a little crap. It's just like the way that I described you is the most giving narcissist on the planet, because it's just like, you will give me the shirt off your back as long as I give you credit for giving you the shirt off my back.
That's funny. I'll take it. You know, I'll take it. I'm trying to do a cleanse. You know, it's like it's a narcissist colonic, and I feel like the last year of my life, a lot of that narcissism is gone, but it is a work in progress. First of all, thank you. I've learned in the last year how to take a compliment, and the way to do it is to say thank you and leave it at that. The second thing is, I made a commitment when I started the show to make the show about my guests. And so that spirit has continued, so much so that I have never, and I will never refuse to go on someone's podcast or show. I don't care whether they have 0 or 1 viewer, etc. That continues to be my pledge and my commitment to being a part of the rising tide that floats all boats. And I will continue to do it. I will never, ever refuse. And I will share my audience and I will do whatever I can. I feel like it's the least we can do. So congratulations on the new show. And I will support that, of course, as well.
Awesome, because it's not just about, you know, people struggling with problems. I mean, it's just like, it's the fact. I've had this theory that all of us are handicapped in one sense or another. I mean, you know, you kind of go, I mean, like Tamsen wears glasses. I can see that. Saul wears glasses. You know, you wear contacts, Melanie. Is that it? So? I mean, it's just like that's a handicap. Yeah, you do have a beard. You know, to be normal is the actual rarity. I mean, to be quote unquote normal is not exactly the. I mean, it's just like we constantly look at people of handicap and say they're so inspirational, but everybody is handicapped in some way, shape, or form, and will suffer with a handicap at some point in their life, whether or not it's, you know, sight, or it's breathing, or it's a heart condition, or something's going to affect you, and you're not going to be perfect anymore.
Is the handicap, is the handicap basically being normal or trying to conform? Is that actually the handicap? Is that what actually holds us?
I'm a big believer in handicap is the perfect word for someone like me, because handicap is what you do to somebody who's really, really good, and you need to make their score even so that you can compete with them.
I love that reframe, Bob. That's awesome.
Melanie, you were going to say something? I don't want to.
I was saying in that same.
And did you see how we became the host again?
I was saying it seems to align with a conversation that my husband and I have sometimes. We think a lot about sort of like prehistoric man and how much has changed about like our minds and the way we operate. And we joke, you know, there's I can think of a good number of things that would have definitely put me out for the count already by this age if it wasn't the horrible vision or the asthma or the gallbladder that needed to come out. Like all these things that definitely would have gotten in the way of being you know, the surviving of the fittest, or I just wouldn't have been among them.
Did prehistoric man compromise when it came to sugar? We don't know. We don't know. We weren't there. We weren't there.
It's true. It's true.
So thank you, Bob. Good luck. I appreciate it. It was very gracious. And also, you know, I'll send it straight back. You know, Saul and Tamsen stepping in as well at the last minute. It's great. And that's why, yeah, and that's why we are all part of this beautiful, connected, expanding community. And we're all there genuinely for each other. I was there for Rose Cameron. I mean, I wanted to be there for Rose Cameron, who was our guest on Monday. She lost her husband 2 weeks ago, and the theme of the actual show was it was her copy, which was, what is a good death? What's a good death these days during times of COVID? How do you mourn? It was just it was one of the most special episodes of the show that I could have had. And this is the CoronaByte. And in the CoronaByte, I asked her one question, which you'll see right now. And I was thinking as you were talking, I was thinking to myself, is this helpful to you? Is this valuable to you? You know, I know it's valuable to people watching, but what about you?
You know, because I'm a cultural anthropologist, this has been very good for me. It's because I'm allowed to share with others the learning. At the end, when we had this gorgeous vase, he's got a great vase. He looks spectacular. His daughter.
I've never heard that phrase. He's got a great vase. She has a great vase.
Yeah, she has a great vase. It's wonderful. It goes with the interior, right? She doesn't clash in any way, shape, or form.
There was so much in there, and one of the things that you will see, and I really, if you watch one episode, watch that episode. Rose compromised, but she compromised in the most selfless way on behalf of her late husband and his family. Everything from Jewish beliefs to burial, she did whatever they needed as opposed to what she wanted or needed, and she just wanted for everyone to kind of be able to mourn in the best possible way. It was just, this was an episode about humanity, and Rose, you know, she is my beautiful Rose, and always will be. So with that said, we are going to, and by the way, I probably have you to thank for Rose as well, Bob. I mean, I think I knew her before, but she's another, you know, I mean, the highlight of going on your show is being able to share the stage sometimes with the people that are sharing this episode with me right now.
Well, I'm noticing that everybody on this show has been on my show except for Melanie, who will be getting a call from me. So there you go.
Yeah, a little bit of audience.
Can't wait.
And Rose is great people. I mean, Rose is just a beautiful soul, somebody who I've had on my show for almost as long as I've had you on my show, Joe. I mean, she's just wonderful.
She is amazing. Well, speaking of wonderful people, Tamsen, your segment and 5 approximate minutes begins now, and I'm excited to hear what you have to say.
So I was trying to figure out, like, what is the thing that I want to talk about, and I figured in the moment that I would decide what it is, and honestly, it's email because I'm in the mood to rant. So here we go. I've seen a thing lately, and it's this, that people, I think in their attempt to say, I'm not going to respond to you quickly, have been putting up autoresponders that are like, I only check email like twice a week, or never, or whatever. And I need you to go over to this other place and talk to me there. And this strikes me as an interesting choice, as somebody who has spends a lot of time thinking about how what we do and what we say represents us. Because what strikes me about it is the immediate feeling I get from those kinds of things is, thanks, but I'm going to go over and do this thing, and I actually don't value your attempt to reach me that much. And kind of combined with that is this other thing I've been seeing a lot lately, and it's something that just kind of came up accidentally in a conversation with a client, is also how people write emails. Like if you actually do send one, right, where people like do this long, like storytelling, and it's like wedged in at the bottom is the reason why they actually asked it of you. And I think I'm probably feeling it keenly because, as Mel went through not so long ago, like there's all these requests I have to set up for book endorsements. And that's just kind of this is what's on my mind, is the kind of email autoresponders that are basically like, I am never going to respond to you, or go over to this other platform, which is not necessarily where you would do business, like, let's say an Instagram or something like that. And also like burying the lead on email. And this may be a really old school topic, but it's just come up like a bunch this week, and I'm mad at it. So that's what's on my mind.
Preach.
I know Melanie's going to respond straight away, so jump right on in.
I was just saying, preach. I'm with you. I've seen an uptick in those too, and occasionally when I get those, I think, it's almost like they're telling you they're more important than you. Like, I don't have time to be emailing, but obviously you do. So we'll take advantage of your time. You can do this, not me. It just it doesn't sit right with me either.
And I want to extend grace, because I do understand it. Like, I do understand that this is, there's these moments where if I do put an autoresponder, it's because it's going to be longer than normal for me to respond. Like, that's when I would put one up. And it does free you from the expectations that there's going to be an instant response. And yet there was something I just couldn't help but notice when I was sending out some of these emails around the book endorsement, particularly to busy people. I'm happy to admit that I sent a request to Seth Godin. I sent one to Dan Pink, and they answered me within the day, both of them. I didn't get an autoresponder that was like, I'm Dan Pink. No, it was like, and so it's one of those things where I want to extend grace at the same time as I wish people would be a little bit more thoughtful about the message that it sends, because it's some of my favorite people that do this, and I get it. At the same time, I'm like, is it sending the message that you want to send? Like, is it more important to send a, hey, I'm trying to manage my time message, more than a thank you for your email and I've got it?
So many of the electronic time savers are meant to turn the individual getting the message into your assistant, or into your secretary, or into your administrative assistant. I mean, it's just like, and it annoys the heck out of me, because this is like, what you're saying is akin to my constant harping about Calendarly. The whole idea that I need to schedule your schedule instead of you scheduling your schedule is so friggin' annoying. Now, I mean, I can understand that if you're getting bombarded with lots of requests, and and I need to get in touch with you, I'm going to take the initiative to schedule myself on there. Like, Joe with his show, he sets me a link. I'm willing to use that. But when someone wants to get in touch with me, and then says, go to my calendar.
And pick it drives me
I'm just
bananas.
Like, what are you doing?
I hate that. I hate that.
And it's not, I mean, when I use it, it's not onerous. It's just, I'm not asking you to give me your social security number and 20 things. It's just, I just need you to, I want you to book the time that suits you and is convenient for you. And by the way, all I need to know is your name and your email address, so I can contact you closer to the time. But I've gone through them as well on the reverse end. I'm like, seriously? Like, my like how many passwords you want? You know, like you want to know my mother's maiden name? Are you sure you're not spamming me? I believe that this topic is worth an entire episode of the show or a room or something to be discussed. And I will just add 2 points to it. One is there's an inherent, just two pieces of stimulus, which we can maybe discuss afterwards. One of them is there's an inherent challenge with scale, and how do you find the balance, especially when you're growing and there's a lot of inbound, and if there is empathy involved as well, you actually do want to respond. Now, on the flip side, you've got anybody experience someone that says, "Hey, text me. Seriously, this is my cell phone. You can text me." No, it isn't, because you've just been sucked into the void that is called community. This piece of software where you realize that it is a lead gen, evil, malicious machine, and you're not really texting their cell phone. And then on the other end of the continuum, you actually have these corporate executives, marketers, who just don't bother responding. As I call it, the black hole of marketing. It's like, what happened to you? It's like you've been sucked into the black hole. Wait, what happened 3 weeks when?
Yeah, the text community thing, I fell for it once, and there's no way to get out of it. I had to block the person because it's one of the worst, experiences ever. So you get these mass texts from, a semi-famous person, and then every time that it's like a one-to-one Twitter. You're literally getting messages saying, "I just ate great dinner," and there's no way out of these things. There's no unsubscribe, there's no stop, there's no everything, because they need to keep the facade up that it is a true, one-to-one communication. It is such a broken experience, and any person who buys into it, it doesn't get tricked into it like I got tricked once, is a strange cat.
It hurts my heart. It hurts my heart.
To quote George W. Bush, "A fooled man ain't going to be fooled again." Carla Johnson said that, which seems very thoughtful, because she is thoughtful, but it's too long to read. Hopefully Carla will join us in the Clubhouse room. So for those of you that are watching right now on Facebook, continue the conversation, which is absolutely awesome. I'm so glad you are having that conversation. Tamsen, I normally attach the Tuesday's CoronaByte was Donney Salazar. It was another, if you thought Monday was heavy, Tuesday was even heavier. Donney is a man that has gone through physical abuse, sexual abuse, being co-opted into a gang, had to see his brother arrested. It almost was non-believable. And at one point, my wife actually asked this question, and this is the CoronaByte. How is it possible that no one of authority, teachers, doctors, mentors, anyone at the time, were unaware of your horrific situation?
So I grew up in an environment where you didn't share your life. I was bullied at home when I was 7. And I'm just going to give you a couple things. This is going to be a hard one to hear. When I was 7, I was molested by my uncle in the shower, and I was so afraid to tell my mom and my stepdad because I didn't want to be teased. I didn't want to be called just something they called me all the time. I didn't want to be called a faggot, a queer, you're gay, things like that. I was afraid to tell them that because I would have been teased.
I tell you what I took away from that as well is we talk about growing up with privilege. And what I took away from that is we are truly privileged to grow up where we have a stable, functional home, where we are loved, where we love back. And that is the ultimate privilege. It is a privilege to be able to have that love in our lives. I was so exhausted and drained at the end of that. I went into a room on Clubhouse and I came off mute afterwards. I said, "I'm just fatigued, guys. I'm just kind of emotionally quite empty. It's been a good week. It's been a fulfilling week. and I'll keep going, but I'm just really tired. But it was that's just how it happened for me. Melanie, I promise you that the next CoronaByte is less. It is less heavy, but I am all ears in terms of hearing what you have to say. So your 5 minutes begins now.
Yeah, well, I was going to talk about something else, but Tamsen's bit kind of inspired me. So I'm reading the book right now, The Organized Mind. I don't know if anyone's read this. It really is all about how your mind works and understanding how it works. And I've been thinking a lot about productivity lately, the tools that I'm using, because like some of these people that Tamsen is emailing, like I also don't necessarily have time to be really responsive when I'm juggling the business and taking care of a toddler, but I don't want to seem impersonal. So I've just been thinking a lot about it, about productivity, about how to optimize in a way that's still human. And one of the things that I've been trying to do is approach all this stuff with just radical transparency. So I liked Tamsen's point about the email responder, that there is a human way to do it. And so one thing I've just been really honest with people about is this sounds like an incredible opportunity, but I am just too overwhelmed to be able to take advantage of it. So I appreciate the invitation. So it's a way for me to just be honest. Like even the thought of filling out, I did this recently, just if you mentioned the gigantic Calendly form, I got an invitation for some sort of show or interview. And it similarly, I opened it up and I just thought, oh, there's no way. And so I responded and said, I'm not sure I even have the bandwidth to share the proper information with you. So we're going to need to follow up. This is not something I have the time for right now. And it's been really freeing to just admit, like, I don't have the time. I don't have the bandwidth. I'm overwhelmed. That's too much for me right now. It has made me feel a lot better about having to use some of these tools to outsource some things, because I feel like I'm being honest and open about it. And so I'm just curious, like from you all, are you doing something similar? Are you, especially, with COVID and all of us being in various states of abnormal routines, are you doing something similar? Are you also finding yourself to be more open, more human about some of these things that maybe in an in-person world or a non-COVID world, you probably wouldn't have shared?
I'd say absolutely. I think one of the things that I try to do when I get those things is be, as you do, as you're saying, be transparent about it in the way back. The other thing that I do, I'm finding I'm doing this more often, is what I would do like in a Q&A session, like back in the days when we actually had those live, where someone sends me this long email and I just email back and I'm like, what was the question? Because I want to make sure I don't miss it. And a lot of times that forces them to actually make the request that they were trying to make. And that kind of clarity is one where I can say, oh, okay, well, I can do this, but I can't do that. But thank you for this piece. And this is, on that point, that's something that I want to credit. I read a book a few years ago that like absolutely like changed my world with how I use words. And it was a book by a guy who's now a friend named Tim David called Magic Words. I don't know if any of you know this, but basically the book is about 7 different words, things like and, but, somebody's name, that is just incredibly powerful. And the thing that I use the most from him is what he calls, I forget it, I think he calls it like the butt inversion, right? So if you say, oh, I would love to, but I have a conflict, what somebody hears is, but I have a conflict. But if you start with, I have a conflict, but it sounds like a great opportunity, reach out to me again in 6 months, it feels totally different. You are not saying anything different, but that's, I think, part of the piece that like Carla was talking about, and Melanie, I hear you talk about, is just even by flipping it so it ends on the thing that they would want to hear, ends up like just being a much more, I think, empathic way to address what people are talking about.
You all are way too nice. You guys are way too nice to people. I mean, it's just like, and I actually agree with you. It's better to be open and honest like that. But my major concern is I'm constantly bombarded by PR people trying to get on my show, or getting people on my show. And as I go through the PR requests, I mean, I cannot tell you how few people approach me and know anything about my show. They give me a cookie cutter letter that says, you can interview him about this, that, and everything. And it's just like, it's not even worth going. I don't do interviews anymore. You know what I mean? It's just like, because I do panel discussions. And if you don't understand what my show's about, why should I pay attention to you? Why should I even give you any effort? Why should I even try?
I totally I totally hear that. One thing that was really freeing for me, I think it was like a year ago, someone told me you don't have to let strangers give you homework. And so when I get those kinds of emails where it's clearly, it's not for me, I'm just a name on a list, I don't even respond. Same thing with the just following up, the robotic, like triple follow up, trying to convince you that you need to hop on a sales call with someone that you're not qualified for. I don't even respond to those anymore because if it's a personal request and I genuinely wish I could be there, now I'll use the Butt Inversion. That's good. But yeah, those big ones, I don't even reply anymore.
Unlike everyone else on this panel, I have created a brand for myself as being unapproachable and argumentative, so I don't get as many requests as you guys do. So I'm able to field them all in real time.
I love it. I'm just thinking, is this a butt inversion or am I taking it too literally? So hashtag, I don't know. But the other thing, going back to what Melanie was saying, is, I mean, it's something that the startup community knows only too well, and we need this more as well. It's the fact that, the quick no or the fast no is so much better than the slow yes. It's just like, if you can do it, great. If you can't, that's also great. Allow me to move on, and instead of dragging this thing out as well. So, I mean, I think that's fantastic. And what a great quote about don't let strangers give you homework, especially clearly today with long Calendly forms to be filled out. Right.
Well, a tip on that, like what service that I use and I love is a service called Mixmax, which allows me not to send someone off to Calendly, but allows me to actually within the email say, here are the times that I'm free. Click on the one that works for you, and it'll send the invite automatically, which I feel is like better in that flow of if someone has asked, I hate it when someone asks me for time and then sends me to their Calendly. I'm like, no, that's not how this works. So I really like that kind of anyway, it's a quick tip for your viewers. It's like Mixmax is awesome because it helps to automate that process, but in what I feel a much more personal way that allows you to kind of write the thing around it. That's like, hey, would love to meet, can't do it this week. Would one of these times work? If not, let me know. And then you kind of start the process from there.
I have to say to you guys, you are all keeping to the rules. We are surprisingly on time, which is amazing. And I'm also nervous because Saul has been quieter than normal, which means hold on to your seats because it's going to be one hell of an end to the show. But the third CoronaByte is from Julie Roehm. Julie is the CMO, the Chief Marketing Officer and the Chief Experience Officer of Party City. We had such an amazing conversation because when you think about the business, when you think about bricks and mortar and about, like who's throwing parties, who's celebrating during times of COVID, and we actually almost flipped it on its head. It was just, we almost kind of like reinvented the whole space. But what we realize, even in their mission statement, is they're in the business of joy. Can you imagine knowing that your KPIs and your incentivization is based on creating joy for people? But I actually asked her, I said, what's the opposite of joy? What is the opposite of joy?
I think the opposite of joy is something truly like innate, like misery. It's
bitterness, maybe even. The feeling that you have detracts from your life force, from others. It's a toxicity.
People say to me, what's the opposite of so-and-so? What's the opposite of green?
Yellow.
And somebody said to Aristotle, what's the opposite of courage? There's not one opposite. There are two opposites. One is cowardice and one is crazy rashness, foolhardiness. Both are vices. They're not virtues. One's a vice of too little and one's a vice of too much. And the real virtue is the golden mean, the Goldilocks zone in between. But some things do have opposites. And I think that's my long-winded philosopher's way of saying, yeah, you were right, Jill.
Oh, well, thank you. I feel super validated coming from a professor.
So that actually had a clip from the after show. It took me maybe about 8 hours to try and put that all into under 60 seconds. But you got a lot of, there were a lot of nuggets in there, including a lecture from the professor of philosophy, Mr. Tom Morris. Well, Saul Colt, you get to bring us home, my friend. Your 5 minutes begins now.
You're on mute,
Yay!
Saul.
Oh, no. Ta-da! I had that ready for him. Normally it's this.
Okay.
Normally it's
There you
that.
go.
But for you, it's that.
Yeah. I'm not going to go too crazy or controversial, but I have already. It's been mentioned that I do like to talk about myself a little bit, and so I'm going to do that now, but do it in a sort of inclusionary way that everyone can sort of get involved. But last year, holy mackerel, what a crappy year for people like me who specialize in experiential marketing and things like that. In 2020, we saw this real serious reactionary panic pivot, and one of the things that I think is going to be really interesting going forward, and this is more of just a softball to throw out to start a conversation than to have a real opinion or anything, but I'm looking forward to seeing which brands and when brands will really re-embrace and re-engage their core audiences, because I think that we got away from the human being aspect of creating experiences. Some brands did some interesting things online and digitally and stuff like that. So not everybody panicked, but I'd say a majority of smaller, medium, and size companies certainly did panic, and some larger companies, of course, just shut down and didn't do anything. But I'm interested to hear from the group, where brands are going to go, or really when people think we're going to get back to putting the human and putting the customer back in the forefront, creating experiences, because now more than ever, people crave not only experiences, they create some brands with some professional empathy. They're craving connection. They're craving everything. Like I've made over 50 videos in the last 12 months, and they all look exactly the same because I'm sitting at this desk with my curtain and my books and my candle and stuff like that. It is such an opportunity now for brands to realize that we're never going to go back to the way they were, but there certainly has to be a reimagination of how things go, because sort of like experiences seem like to be the first thing dropped from the budget when the world sort of changed. So I throw that out for discussion.
Well, who wants to go first? I have ideas, but anyone want to jump in?
In terms of experience, I mean, yeah, obviously experience is a great way for people to express their brand. And I think that we've gotten into this rut from experience that's been done up to this point as being focused on events and parties, physically getting out there and being with people. And I'm sensing that the virtual opportunities for connection are really going to be increasingly hot as we go forward from this point. Whether or not we're talking about virtual conferences on down to virtual experiential type creations where you're experiencing the brand in a whole new way in a virtual environment. I mean, it's just like, I gotta imagine that all of that is going to ramp up in the wake of COVID, because it's just like, just because the pandemic is quote unquote over, we're not going to go back to normal. I mean, it's going to be a hybrid life that we're going to be living, where people are still going to be wearing masks. Not everybody, but people are still going to be wearing masks. People are still going to be, being a little bit concerned about getting together in large groups. I mean, the fact that we've gone through the lowest flu epidemic or a flu spread in years. I mean, years. I mean, people are healthier than ever. I mean, people aren't going to go back to being unhealthy. I mean, it's just like going to a conference and saying, I'm just going to get that cold this time, or I'm going to get the stomach flu. It's just going to happen. We're not going to accept that. And I think it's going to make experience change. Yes, we will still have events and parties. Yes, we will still have conferences, etc. But I got to believe that the hybrid model is going to be adopted going forward from here.
One of the things that I've seen is, I think from an experiential standpoint, I think some of the brands that I think have done that very well are actually individual brands, and more specifically musicians. So the person I'm thinking about right off the bat is actually Rufus Wainwright, who's been an amazing presence on Instagram and all sorts of different platforms throughout the pandemic. And starting last
Isn't he
fall,
the father? Isn't he the father on Gossip Girl, Rufus? Oh no, I'm sorry.
No, I don't think so. No. I was like, no, I don't know Gossip Girl. Stop. I don't know. And of course, like everybody's like just horrified that I haven't watched Gossip Girl.
You found me out.
No. But he started doing a series of Friday concerts, which were available like so that you could subscribe and see them online. But of course, in between, there were things that you could see on Facebook, and you could see these other aspects of it. And I think that very personal interaction piece, I think, starts to speak a bit, Saul, to what you're talking about. It's just this understanding. I mean, we've always known it that your brand can't be for everyone, but to be very specific about who are you interacting with and how you can create a different experience for them. I think we can look in a lot of ways to the performers that had to figure this out actually faster than anybody else because they didn't have this backlog of things to fall back on. So I think that I think there's some interesting lessons to learn from the Rufus Wainwrights of the world. And actually a lot of magicians have done some very interesting things this way as well.
I think there have been some great examples. Sorry to cut you off, Joe, just 1 second. There's been some great examples of individual performers. And what I noticed was a lot of people piled on at the very beginning. And then they sort of realized that it's a lot of work. Even, like Joe, you're probably the last man standing in the regular streaming, shows and stuff like that. Like these things, I don't think people realize how much work goes into.
Chris Brogan is going strong, and thankfully, smartly, because he's smart and I'm dumb. He got help in the form of Carrie Gargone, and I mean, but I think it's. I want to talk about something else, though. I mean, I love what you said, Saul. You make me think always. We always talk about humanity at scale. And I wonder if actually, maybe to answer your question, the answer is going to be experiences not at scale. So actually being able to become really comfortable with smaller and more intimate. And, I've had Max Lindemann on the show. I'm really excited. I'm going to have Joe Pine on the show, who wrote The Experience Economy, who's considered to be like the guy when it comes to this. But I'll take Clubhouse just for a moment. We're already, some of us, trapped into this large room phenomenon. And then when we end up in a really small, intimate room, we're almost like, what's wrong with us? Something wrong with us? Like, why such a small room? Well,
those are the best rooms, though, in my opinion. But that may be just
exactly. Did I do something wrong? Did I not invite enough people? Etc. It's exactly what you say, Tamsen. It's even us. We're uncomfortable with small. We're uncomfortable with intimate. We need to be more comfortable. The brands need to be more comfortable with intimate. We've got to be realistic about this, though. I mean, it's just like people have been saying this ever since blogs and not podcasts, of course, but also iTunes. I mean, the whole idea of the long tail was developed to describe what was happening on iTunes and how there's going to be this long tail of lots of artists making Amazon, money. And it's going to end up being really big profits for Apple. Well, it turns around 10 years later, iTunes is making most of its money from the top 10% of the catalog, which is exactly the same thing that was happening in the CD stores and the record stores. There's no different. I mean, we got to be realistic. I mean, it's great to be in small rooms and the experience is fantastic, but that's not where all the money and the cash and the opportunity and focus is. I'm gonna put a pin in that, and I'm gonna say that we can definitely take this over to Clubhouse, because one of the things that I'm trying to really focus on in the streaming era is the ability to be intimate and I think comments is a huge way to do that. Like Seth saying, how can you be in the space and not know what the bean cost is when people are pitching you? Or Bob that says, I agree with Bob, it's going to be a hybrid model. So I think we're going to have to figure it out. But right now, beautifully segueing into the final CoronaByte, I had Chris Fuller on the show. He just wrote a book called Inspired Leadership, and this is all about the problem of scale.
And so, at scale, cracks become chasms. I've got one client that was doing about 160 million a year in their business. And I said, well, tell me why you need me. And they said, we're broken. And I said, well, what if you did about 30% less volume? Would you still be broken? And they said, no, we would be rocking it. I mean, we'd be absolute rock stars. And so I said, so you're not broken, you're broken at scale.
What does one of these gigantic corporations do where scale has revealed these chasms? Do they, in fact, is part of the answer to figure out how to get smaller? What are some of the remedies to these behemoths?
I love exactly what you just said. I think it's perfect. And that piece is we need to become smaller, even if we stay larger.
Easier said than done, but we have to become smaller even if we remain larger. Maybe the winners will be the people that do that. But right now, I have 4 winners on the show with me, and I'm going to ask them just a small little, kind of superficial little Corona question, which I've been asking all my guests this week. What's the future of capitalism? Starting with Mr. Bob Knorpp.
Of course. Start with me. Thanks.
And by the way, each response should be under 280 characters, 30 to 45 seconds. Go.
Future of capitalism is it will run as it always has. The rich will get richer, the poor will get poorer.
Well, that really was very quick. And by the way, also, what I learned thanks to Mr. Mark Schaefer, that is also known as the Matthews effect. Mr. Bob Knorpp, where can people find you?
Well, you can find me at thebeancast.com. All my information's there. You can get my phone number, my email address, my LinkedIn page, my Facebook page, whatever. You find it all there at thebeancast.com. And of course, you can find the show, The Beancast, which I've been doing steadily for 12 years, about 50 shows a year. So it's quite a few shows I've done over the course of the last decade. So I'd love for you to be an audience member, whether you're coming late to the party or whether you're coming back to it. We're always welcoming you.
You can come late to the party, but remember, it's still a party. And we will see Mr. Bob Knorpp hopefully in Clubhouse right now. Thank you, Bob. All right. Oh, he just said thank. I cut him off.
Oh, no.
I cut him off. I want to be on time. Tamsen Webster, what's the future of capitalism?
Well, I think the capitals are going to stay at the front of sentences, and that there may be a fall off in capitals later on. That's what I think.
All right. And anything going on in your life that you want to share with us?
Yes. I have a book coming out in May, the Find Your Red Thread, Make Your Big Ideas Irresistible. So if you want to find out more about that, you can go to redthreadbook.com. There it is right there. Sign up to get first news and such about that. And I do agree with Bob that I think we're gonna see a continual ossification of capitalism until I think it will break eventually.
And of course, you will be coming back on Corona TV to promote the book, and we will dedicate an entire episode to you. So I'm excited. All right. Well, we'll see you in Clubhouse. And then there were 3. Melanie Deziel, what's the future of capitalism?
I'm going to go ahead and second everything that's been said so far, which is I think it'll continue to cause the challenges that it's causing, and at some point that will be too much, and we'll have to see what pops up to replace it.
Bend or break. And what would you like to promote, or what's been going on in your life?
Well, I'd like everyone to go check out my website, if you will, and see if there's anything there that is of interest to you. We're doing all kinds of fun things. I've got the book, which is over my shoulder here, the Content Fuel Framework, how to generate unlimited story ideas. But we do all kinds of other fun things too. We do workshops and a mastermind and lots of printable resources for you. So check out storyfuel.co down here in my over here in my name, and you can go ahead and see if there's anything there that's of interest for you.
Absolutely awesome, Melanie. We'll see you in Clubhouse. Thank you for coming on the show again today. And then there was just Saul Colt. Saul Colt.
I thought those people would never leave.
Saul Colt, we got 20 seconds left. No, what's the future of capitalism, for God's sake?
It's obvious. It's the Jaffe coin. What else could it be?
Oh, what a good answer. Wait a second. Let's extend the show. Let's talk. Let's there it is. There's the Jaffe coin. I'm starting the room in Clubhouse. That was a good answer. What's been going on in your life, Saul, that you want to promote?
I just winded down a project, have a little space for something new. So if you guys want to talk and experiential marketing, creative marketing, stuff that people remember at reasonable budgets, reach out to me, either saulcolt.com or theideaintegration.com. You can pretty much reach me at either one and all my information, or just find me, Saul Colt, pretty much anywhere on the internet, all one word, no space.
Amazing. Well, the room is open on Clubhouse. I have no idea how to walk and chew gum at the same time, except to tell you, go to my Linktree, linktree.com or link.tree/JaffeJuice. Come in. We've got already a whole bunch of people that are waiting for you, Saul. So come on into Clubhouse. That just leaves me to say, guys, this has been an amazing week, an emotional week, a fulfilling week, a thoughtful week. A week that I'm very grateful for the privilege, my privilege, of being able to grow up with a mother that loved me and without a father and a family that I hope the ideals, what I was taught, I can pass on to my kids and so on and so forth. And from that, there's nothing else to do except to show you Chuck Norris.
You are Chuck Norris approved.
There you go. Let's go into Clubhouse.
Thank you for watching Corona TV with your host, multiple author, and global keynote speaker, Joseph Jaffe. Corona TV is the show about hope, positivity, optimism, and if there's time left over, a little bit of marketing. The after show on Zoom starts right now at bit.ly/Corona TV After Show. If you like the show, tell a friend or two. Please subscribe to the show at coronatv.show. And if you want to get inside news, previews of upcoming guests, and much more, text Corona TV to 66866 or visit josephjaffe.com/subscribe to sign up for the show's newsletter.
And despite the best ministrations of your wife, you still look ugly.
Show officially.